latter portion that we hadn't covered. So, we'll schedule that one for Monday, and I'll send that to you, Tom. And then we'll have the final exam during the exam period. I'll just give them another grade to.
Okay. What? Monday, what, for this class?
Yeah.
Okay. So pest class Monday, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll get that to you. I think I've already got it made up. I got to pull the computer up. I shift from one computer to another between this one in class and one at the house and one in the office, and I've got to find it, but I know I've got it done. So,
okay.
And it won't be anything real complicated. But I just think they need to have another grade to record to follow up on this.
Okay.
And we're not going to do a whole lot today, John, since a lot of people are not here. We're going to talk about the latter portion of this transportation, storage, disposal, and spill management thing. It outlines the requirements that are the things that you need to do as far as the EPA for planning and emergency notification. And what was that?
I'm sitting here, I just comment, I'm over here sharpening a pocket knife while you're talking, and I'm like, I probably shouldn't be doing this now, but anyway.
As long as you don't cut yourself, it's not hurting anything. I don't hear it. It's not a problem.
No,
What's sharp?
The politics.
How are you sharp?
Oh, I've just got a little pocket knife sharpener thing.
Okay. No, I don't notice it at all as long as you don't require a tourniquet or anything, Jonathan.
But it's just the politics of somebody walking by the door seeing me sharpen a knife. But anyway. And of course, I just be talking about it, so oh well.
Yeah, I've got about a 12 or 14-inch whetstone in the cab of my truck that I can get to you if you need it.
No, I've got a good whetstone at the house, but that's there and I'm here.
Yeah. Well, I found this one in a Christmas tree fields late last week. I was up looking at some more Christmas trees and stumbled across it, and I'm sure it's a stone that the Mexican guys that were trimming the trees had used to sharpen their machetes. So, but anyway, as we talk about these laws, you need to make sure that you've got a file or a folder or something that's going to have your safety data sheets and your MSDS sheets and your labels. And that's not only for your benefit, but it's for the benefit of anybody were you to have a spill or a hazard or, heaven forbid, a fire. That's one of the things that your county emergency response workers are really scared to death of in farm operations. If they come on a farm when there is a fire, they're always concerned about any hazardous material that might be in a structure that they're having to deal with. And for that reason, you've got to, or legally, you're supposed to store all of your chemicals in a single locked location, and it's supposed to have a notification on the door or the wall or something to make sure that the emergency workers will know that there's some hazardous materials in there, and that is a requirement by law, and you're supposed to be able to do that. You're supposed to maintain your storage site and prevent contamination, cross contamination of other items. And if you're diligent with your storage, you keep your labels and everything, and you want to, as much as possible, keep your pesticides in their original containers. It's always a problem if you ever use a different container to store part of this material. And I'm guilty as I can be. I've got some people that have poured something over in another jug and they didn't label it. They knew what it was, but they've been gone for 5 years. So I don't know what's in a couple of jugs I've got. And it is concentrated material, and I can guess what it is, but my guess is not going to make me comfortable enough to use it. So I've got a couple of containers at home that, as far as I'm concerned, are hazardous waste. And dealing with those type things are a major concern. Some county systems will have collection sites or a collection day where they will allow folks to bring potentially hazardous materials into a collection site where it will be disposed of properly. But those things are few and far between, and sometimes it's hard to meet those schedules. But I have actually got to make an effort to do that with some of this stuff, because I don't know what it is, and were I to know what it is, I'm sure it is old material that more than likely has lost its effectiveness. And one of them is a herbicide. I'm pretty comfortable with the other one. I think it's a fairly toxic insecticide, but I don't know. And I'm not comfortable with, the best way to dispose of some of this stuff is use it. But when you don't know what it is or what the concentration is, you're just like playing the lottery trying to use it. So it's not a positive, not a good recommendation. So you don't want to do that. So if you're ever in a situation where you have some material that you don't know what it is, you're not comfortable with what it is, outdated, the label is gone, or it's in a wrong jug, be aware that most counties or geographic areas will have a hazardous collection site or date that they'll do it. I know Henry County has done a couple of times up at the administration building. If you have to do it on your own and pay for the disposal of a hazardous material, you better make sure that your checkbook's in real good shape, and be prepared to write a sizable check for any sort of valuable material. So you want to take advantage of those disposal situations if that were to ever come about. It talks a, Go ahead, Tom.
For the record, we're still seeing Bigfoot on the screen.
Yeah. Are you?
Yeah, so that'll be on the recording. Just.
Wonder why. All right. That change it?
Yep. Now we see you.
All right. Well, want to go back to Bigfoot?
Anyway,
I've still got it on the computer, but that was all right.
Yeah.
We talked very briefly about the idea of a collection pad, and that is an area that was prescribed for some situations for the mixing and loading of pesticides, and it's generally a paved or concrete area that has a slope to it and a drain in the center of it, and it's made as a safety net for potential spills. I'm not a fan of these collection pads or collection trays. Trays are one thing, but a collection pad, it's a large area that is sloped to the center to a drain, but that drain's got to go somewhere. And the original recommendation that was extended a number of years ago was that the drain from collection pad would be carried into something like a septic tank or an area that would collect that possible drainage that was spilled as you were loading or a tank. And the reason I'm not a fan of that once you have a collection pad and that, say it goes into a 500-gallon septic tank, um, at some point during the life of this facility, the septic tank that you've got is going to accumulate a volume of material and so on. And then you've got another hazardous material that you've got to dispose of. So it's not a wonderful idea. I'm sure there are some scenarios where collection pads are essential. I know the area that I used to work at in Winchester, when we had the fruit research lab up there on the southern edge of the town of Winchester, the majority of the area around the laboratory where we worked was paved, was a paved area, and they had a collection area there. But in that situation, it went into the sewage system for the city of Winchester. We were very cautious and careful not to put much stuff in that, because you're adding a potentially hazardous material to that wastewater, and it was another issue that had to be dealt with. And the time that I'm talking about was, we were talking about 30 or 40 years ago, and the standards and restrictions and regulations are greatly different now than they were at that time. I'm sure that would not be allowed in today's environmental condition. So collection pads are a good idea for the initial design, but consideration has to be done for the waste that is collected with those. Talks a little bit about disposal of pesticides, and we've covered that, throughout the semester. And make sure you understand what the term rinsate is. That's the solution that occurs when you are emptying a pesticide container. So you've got a 2.5-gallon jug, you pour all the concentrated liquid into your spray tank. Then you want to rinse out that container, not only to eliminate the waste, but you don't want to lose the residual material that was there. So the rinsate is the stuff that's left in the jug when you rinse it. Common sense rinsate. And you're supposed to do that 3 times with a plastic container, and then you're supposed to puncture it so that container can be used to store gasoline or water for the cat, whatever you want to do. So that's what we're talking about with rinsate. There'll probably be questions about the best use of excess pesticides once it's been dissolved or prepared for usage. You're supposed to have a reasonable idea how much it's going to take to cover your field and your vineyard and your orchard, and whatever you've gotten left, you go back, and the best use is to go back and reapply it. Try to put it out over the crop that you're working with. And here it talks about triple rinsing, and that's what we just talked about a while ago with the containers. Won't want to beat that horse. There's an area here that talks about spill management, and we haven't talked a lot about spills and so forth, but assume that you've got a nurse tank, and we haven't talked about nurse tanks, but when we had the orchard, we had what we called it a water tank. It was on the back of a 2-ton truck, had 500 gallons of water, a pump that would pump that water into a sprayer that was at a remote location, so we didn't have to run the tractor over the road and back. The water truck would always be waiting at the end of the road in the orchard where the guy was working, and he would have the necessary mix of materials that we were going to use in that tank. And the spray would pull up beside the water tank, and we'd put the hose over in the tank, and crank the engine and pump the water in while we put in the actual chemicals. But one of the issues that you have if the guy's not being real diligent with that, you may run the tank over. If it's out on the ground, it's not a big issue. But assume you were filling your sprayer out near a paved road where the public would see it, and you need to have some mechanism to control a spill. You need to have what we call a spill kit. In a spill kit, or a kit to manage this, if you're going to have any sort of volume, you need to have some sort of mechanism that you can contain the spill. In other words, something that would quickly absorb, or what they call a snake, an absorbent device that you could contain it. Would be a fiber filled tube of a device that would surround it and contain the spill. Generally, when you're dealing with spills, you need some sort of absorbent material, and it's generally recommended to use something like kitty litter that will absorb any pesticides and spills. They work really well. But to have what we call a spill kit, you're going to have one of these snake or devices that will control the spill. You're going to need the absorbent material, and then the personal protective equipment that you might need to protect yourself while you're addressing the spill. And you'd want to have a shovel and a bucket and something to use to contain the spill. Sometimes you would have, like I said, the kitty litter or clay or dry lime, sand or soda ash, or other non-flammable absorbent materials are quite often used to do that. You don't want to try to use sawdust or shredded paper or sweeping compound, because they don't absorb in the manner in which you're going to need. But spills are always a potential problem, and you need to constantly be aware of those. It's not so much that it's a detriment to you, but in the eyes of the public, you've got to have public welfare in mind. So that's one of the things that we're always concerned with. And if it's a spill of any size, you are obligated to call the Department of Agriculture, and within 24 hours. So if it's just a minor spill, you don't have to do that. But it's a concern, not so much just for you, but for the public that we'll deal with. There is a statement talks about knowing the law. It's in your pesticide manual on page 20 of chapter 11, and it talks about the Title III of the Superfund of 1986 requires that you report any accidental release, such as a spill, of extremely hazardous substance. And reporting will include the name of the pesticide that was spilled, if the pesticide was covered under the SARA Title III. You want to know the quantity of the spill. If it was greater than a reasonable specified, you've got to notify the law. And make sure that the spill is contained and avoid off-site exposure. You're supposed to notify the Emergency Response Council, part of the Virginia Emergency Management Operations. There's an 800 number in your book there. You need to notify your local emergency planning committee, and in some cases the National Response Center. But it gets really costly and cumbersome if you have a spill. So it's best not to, try to work with your pesticides and not have that occur, and be able to handle it and keep it small if you do. there was a tractor trailer that turned over on 220 north of here back last summer. And it was a tanker truck that, in the eyes of the state emergency people, was carrying a hazardous material. But it was a milk truck. But they viewed that spill as a hazmat or hazardous material thing. And I would hate to guess what it cost that company to clean up that 7,000 or 8,000 gallons of milk that spilled on the side of the highway. They dug up the soil. They cleaned out anything in the ditch that where the milk spilled, and they totally redid that area. The road was that lane of the road was closed for 3 or 4 days while they addressed that. And it was nothing but milk.
Yeah, there was a spill like that on the east side of Danville about 1.5 years ago. It was the same thing. They had the road blocked for at least a week, and I mean, they dug way down in the dirt.
Yeah. Well, what was that? Was that with milk also?
I'm not sure what it was, but they were serious with the cleanup out there.
Yeah. And, you know, we're being legislated by a bunch of people that, you know, I don't know whether they're scared or just super cautious, but, you know, pouring milk on the ground is not going to hurt anything.
No.
And, you know, in your situation, I don't know what it might have been, but they have a heart attack if sawdust gets spilled. Now, and, you know, I understand sawdust washing into a stream could create a hazard for wildlife, but sawdust is a naturally occurring thing. You know, some of these we get. I guess I'm sort of old school and hard nosed. I'm not as reactionary as some of these people. We've got an EMT group that's down the hall from my office, and they're just like vultures looking for some sort of hazardous deal for the cult to feed on, and that I kind of refer to them as a cult because they sort of seem that way. Jonathan, that basically covers the last part of that chapter. Tom, is there anything else you think we need to do as far as finishing up?
I don't know, but Jonathan did have a solution for the spilled milk. Go to the SPCA and get all the cats and bring them over for a while.
Well, hey, look, that as far as I'm concerned, that's fine.
Yes.
If they're along the side of the road, I'm not a cat fan anyway, so.
There could be that. But otherwise, no, I think as far as this class, I mean, yeah, Monday's going to be the test, and it's going to cover which chapters?
I can't remember, but it's 7, 8, 9. It's from where we were in the last one. I don't know whether I've even got access to that right now or not.
I might be able to look it up right quick.
I've got to go through a whole series of stuff to get to it on this computer.
Oh.
I think we tested through chapter 6 on the first one.
Okay.
So it would be from 7 through 11 is my memory.
Okay.
We start with personal protective equipment. And a lot of the latter portion of this is just common sense.
Yeah.
You know, it's not rocket science. And that's sort of the way this will be.
Okay. So 6.
And my goal is for it to be something to improve your grade, not to hurt you. Okay?
Yeah.
You're just going to validate where we are. So don't sweat it.
Okay. So it's 7 through 11, right?
Yeah, that's what I remember.
Okay. Okay. No, I'll just.
I'm not gonna pass my test over there.
Oh, good. Jonathan thinks he passed the applicator's test the other day.
Well, I would hope he did.
Yes.
Yeah. It was one trick question, and it was one question we didn't go over in class. But other than that, I read everything.
Okay.
Do you happen to remember which version of the test? It would have been printed on the front page. Did you look?
No, sir.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Tech is pretty diligent about keeping those tests secret. They don't let them get out, and I know the version that we took here was version 2, and I think they've actually got 3 of them. So you would have taken either 1, 2, or 3. But they're all very similar. I think they're basically the same questions. They may be in a different order.
Yeah, all the questions it was 4 answers and all multiple choice.
Mm-hmm.
All of them were like stuff you're not supposed to do, and there was one that was the correct answer with what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
It wasn't hard to me.
Well, what was the trick question?
It was one like you have 5 gallons to 10 acres. How many acres we can cover with 20 gallons? One of those questions.
Okay.
But then the answers were mismatched. It was like they had the first answer, which was like I don't remember.
Okay.
And then the second one was supposed to be the correct answer, but the second number was wrong. They were supposed to maybe you circle that one.
Okay.
Just because you read the first part, and then the third one was wrong, but the last one was right.
Oh, okay.
Top 3, but the second one was one that was supposed to be right. They were just trying to get you to go through it fast and circle that one wrong. But I read it.
Okay. And what was the one question, do you remember, that you said that we didn't talk about?
It was like the third question.
Okay.
Only to that one.
No, that's a confidence breaker when the third question, you're like, I got no clue, we didn't talk about
I opened
that.
the book and it's like, what is that?
Yes. Oh, that hurts.
I get to flipping through it. I marked the ones on the thing I didn't know, went back and read them over again. Then I asked her, and she said, I can't give you the answer, but I can smile. And I was like, going back over 34 and put D, and I looked at her, she smiled. I was like, going back over 22, I put C. She smiled. So the ones I did,
it's not their intention to trick you or do anything like that. And actually, it appears better for the extension agent the better that you guys do on one of these tests, because it validates that they have given you the instruction that you need to pass it.
Well, the thing was, I wouldn't have done so well if she didn't look through the book and ask us questions from the test.
Yeah, she did a review with them a little bit before they took it, so.
Yeah.
That's how
That's
that
like
went.
3 questions, like what's the life cycle of incomplete and complete metamorphosis and stuff.
Okay.
I didn't know all of it, incomplete, but I knew complete.
Mm-hmm.
And just stuff like that. Just ask questions and I was like, you might see this again, nudge, nudge.
Yes, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
That's
Yes.
what she did.
It sounds like you had a good agent doing yours. That's good.
Yeah, she's good. I'd actually met her before, but it's been like a year, I guess, since.
She said
Yeah.
it to me like 10 days.
Okay,
The
yeah.
license. But I think I did. I don't know if I.
Well, I'm sure you did. And you've only got to get a 76 or better on that to get you to pass it. So I think as long as you don't miss more than 13, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had one of the ones that I had in here missed 4. One of them missed 12, and the other one didn't do very well. But, it was very much like I expected for the way our grades came out. So.
Mm-hmm. But I was telling them beforehand, I'm like, the test isn't that bad. It was good enough I could pass it.
Yeah, well, it's common sense of the questions, like Jonathan said. You got 4 choices. 2 of them are obviously wrong, and then you've got 2 that are close, but generally you've got enough knowledge to be able to pick among those 2.
If you're growing up in that kind of environment, like the farming communities, it's basic knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. And it's not designed to be to be mind-boggling for you, because if it was, they wouldn't have many people to pass the thing. And that's not their objective. They want you to have a knowledge of what to do in the way that you efficiently use pesticides. And they want to make sure it's legal for you to gain the restricted use materials. And that's going to be the only advantage that you have for this, is that you'll be able to then go into southern states and be able to buy atrazine. Now, atrazine is a pre-emergent herbicide that's been used on corn forever, but they put it in as a restricted use material now because of the potential runoff of it going into the Chesapeake Bay. You know, it's not a dangerous material, but the handling of it is the issue. And they've categorized it as restricted use. And that's just one of many. You can buy now really toxic insecticides to do with stuff. But you know, in the purchase of that, you've got the skills and knowledge to know how to use it. That's all it is. And it's worthwhile. All right, John, I won't hold you, anymore. I'm done what I want to do. I want to go back to the office and try to get some tests put together so I can get them to Tom. Well, we'll be able to do that. But, you'll be good to go. It's fine. Where was Carol today, Tom?
I don't know. She didn't say.
Okay, that's fine. Well, I'll let you torture in a manner you feel appropriate.
Okay. And miracle of miracles, I'm about a third of the way done making my 231 test. So.
Okay.
I'm planning to meet my Wednesday deadline.
Okay. Well, I've got to work some this weekend to get everything done I've got 3 that I'm going to do early next week. But I should be able to do that. I hauled a load of Christmas trees yesterday, and I've got to go get another load for Saturday morning, but I may end up working some this weekend to try to get everything together.
Okay.
All right.
Well, have a fun afternoon.
You too. Yep. You're having class this afternoon, right?
Oh, yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
See you in a couple hours.
Right. Yep. We'll see you then.